Hi, welcome to another episode of Academic Writing Tips. I am Lee A. Hall, and I am currently an associate professor. So, what I'm going to be doing is talking to you today about doing things that work for you and ignoring what doesn't work for you. And so, I have compiled some pretty common tips that you might hear people offering up to you to help improve your writing. And for some people, they work, and for some people, they don't. Let's take a quick look at some of them. So here's a really popular one. The first one, reading your work aloud. The idea is, you might print your work off, walk around the house, walk outside in your yard, read it out loud, hear how it sounds. And the idea here is if you hear how it sounds, you'll hear grammar mistakes. If you left a word out, you'll sort of hear where sentences are clunky, where they need cleaning up. You might even find places where ideas don't fit together as well as you thought, organization structure falls apart, that sort of thing. And for some people, this works really well, and they do hear those things. And obviously, if you read it out loud, you probably will find some grammar errors, and you probably will help you find if you left a word out or used a wrong verb tense or things like that, but not necessarily, because you can just automatically correct for it in your brain and read right over it. I never read my work out loud, or if I do, it's like 1% of the time to really hear how something sounds. Um, Instead, what I do is I have a notebook, and I like to write my ideas down in my notebook, and I'll do a separate video about the benefits of having a writer's notebook. Other people say that reading their work out loud does nothing for them. They never catch the mistakes. Everything sounds good to them. So try it. If it works, use it. If not, discard it. All right. The other thing is write at a time that you like and write at a time that works for you. Now, this isn't always going to be possible because sometimes you have to get your writing done. And I'm not saying it means you have to write at 2 in the morning, because I'm not a supporter of writing at 2 in the morning. I'm a fan of sleeping at 2 in the morning, but unless it's just how your schedule works that you like writing at 2 in the morning. But in general, I like to write in the morning between, 8 and noon. But that doesn't mean it always works out that I can do that. Sometimes I have to get my writing done, and the only time I can do it is like from 1 to 4 in the afternoon. It's not my best time. It's not my most productive time to be doing that kind of work. But if you have a time where you find that you're more productive, play around a little bit, see what works for you, and then as much as possible, try to get your writing done in that time. Write in the order that makes sense for you. So point number 3 here being that when you're writing a paper, once you've got your head around what it is you want to say, then don't think that you should write linearly. As a matter of fact, I would really suggest you don't write linearly. You could try it, see how it works. But what I have found is that I tend to start in the middle and work my way back around to the front, because by the time I start in the middle and get to the end, I know what I need to do in the beginning to set myself up so that it flows well throughout, right, all the way through to the end. Whereas if I write something in the beginning, I think I know what I'm doing. I think I know how, the important ideas that I want to put in there. But a lot of times that changes as I go through draft after draft after draft, and in the beginning might not align so much. I'm just having to overhaul it anyways or completely trash it. So it ends up being wasted time. But point here is, don't think you have to write linearly. Write linearly if that's what works for you. Write in any order or manner that makes sense for you and that is working, okay? And then the last thing here is share your draft. Now, early on, it might be really good in your career to have a writer's group, and we can absolutely, we'll have a separate video on the writer's group, but I don't always share my drafts, okay? And a lot of times these days, I really don't share them at all. I might blog about them over on Medium, about what I'm learning as I'm writing, about the findings or things like that, or ideas that I want to communicate. But for the most part, the only people these days that see my drafts are co-authors. However, in the beginning of your academic career, it can make sense to have other people who have a lot more experience with writing and publishing look at your drafts if you have specific questions for them. And we'll cover that in a separate video on how to share a draft. But just keep that in mind that sometimes sharing drafts, it may not be useful to you at all, particularly if you're giving it to people that have limited experience. So if you're sharing your draft, think about who you're giving it to, and think about what their expertise is and what they can do to help you, right? To help that draft along. All right, so have a question about academic writing or teaching in academia, let me know. You can reach me at leahall39@gmail.com.